Hello everyone. I thought I'd make today a little useful tool for doing resin. This isn't the best board. I noticed this board is a little bit swelled on the edges. It's just wafer board. But for making, this is going to be just a little table that you can level up. We've got some high spots and stuff in here. This thing's been out in the weather for a while. This side here is pretty smooth, so I think I'm going to use this for the top. It is a little bit swelled right on this edge, maybe on that, but as long as you stay away from the edges, or as long as I stay away from the edges, I should be okay. But what it's for is, if you're doing, you're pouring your resin, say a dining room table or wherever you do your crafts, and if it's not perfectly level, so with this board we'll be able to level it up. So I got a bunch of these off of Amazon, so you can raise or lower the legs, and then I got a package of these little levels here off Amazon. I'll try to remember to leave a link in the description below the video. And yeah, I'm getting a slow start on this resining channel, but doesn't mean I haven't been working with resin. Kind of got a little dragon's eye. Just doing them in brown because they're actually not for a resin finish piece. It's actually for doing some sand casting, and these are just going to be the positives. I've had to do some doctoring on these. Had to take a little, because some of the teeth overhung, so when I pack it down with the Petrobond or sand, it would get into that area, and then when I go to lift it out, since the area is wider on the outside, then when I lift it out, it's going to knock sand loose. So I had to go in and do some touch-up grinding over here and here with the Dremel, and then fill it in here with the UV resin. But you can see where I can cut out there. And I'm thinking 2 ounces of resin will equal roughly about a pound of copper. So this one will make about a 1 pound ingot. This one here, as thin as it is. And this is actually from a soap mold. This one will make about a 2 pound ingot, and then this one will make about a 3 pound. I used a brown dye in the first two. So anyway, we'll get on with this. But since these things are basically about an inch total diameter, and then, like I said, I don't want to get right on the edge because of, so I'm going to go ahead and come in an inch, go an inch this way. That'll give me intersecting lines. I don't know if you guys are seeing this or not, but here I'll put it on 1 inch, then I'll put it here on 1 inch, this is just a board I had, so I haven't cut it down or anything. I could have probably taken it to the table saw and ripped a 1/2 inch off of each side and got rid of those swelled spots, but I'll just make sure I set my molds down more towards the center. Now you can make this the size of your silicone mat, or you can take a silicone mat and cut it down to whatever size you decide you think you need, depending on how many molds you work with at one time, and make it to that size, and you can cut a silicone mat to fit it, whatever. And I believe this thing said to take a 3/8 drill, which thing to do would be getting these baggies open is always a challenge. In a way that almost seems too big. I'm gonna pause the camera and double check these things real quick. So we'll be right back. Okay. Yeah, I think a 5/16 will work better. I went and drilled a hole inside of my workbench over here, and that centerpiece did fit in there. So try to get that about as straight up, as square as you can. I should have probably got a scrap 2x4 if I had one around and put underneath it to get a cleaner hole on the bottom side. Turn this whole thing around without dumping anything on the floor. And it doesn't have to be perfect. Yeah, my other channel is on scrap metal, so I get out and pick a lot of scrap up and stuff, and sometimes I haul off there some trash for them. And the other channel, I kind of started to do a playlist, Trash to Treasure, and I got a couple staples right here I need to pull out later. And on that Trash to Treasure deal, I took a little bit of copper tubing and melted it down into some little ingots, and then I took the ingots out to the rolling mill and ran it on half round and made a copper ring out of it. Okay, so now what we're going to do, we're going to place one of these in each corner. Just kind of push it down in that hole a little bit. Make sure it's, by pushing it down in there, then you know you got it lined up properly. Then get a good hammer. And of course, that one took off. I guess I probably should have done them one at a time. So we'll do this one over here. Knock it down in there where it's pretty flush. And we'll do this one. Okay, there's the one for that one. Depending on how stable your surface is, on how solid, if you got a solid workbench, it makes it much easier. And I'm not sure about that wafer board. Now you could have probably squirted a little wood glue or E6000 in there before you drove it down, and that would make sure it stayed on there. Now we got a little lock nut. Put your lock nut on it, run it all the way in. I guess I could have prepped a couple of these before the video. Now one thing I'm kind of doing too in my spare time, and I'm gathering the tools for it now, is to be making rings, and maybe eventually into some other jewelry. But it's non-resin. But I'm kind of looking at ways I can incorporate resin into it. Actually, some of them are inlay rings, and they're done with either resin or super glue. So now we have our table up on legs. Now get one of your little levels out. I have seen somebody that had one of these, a website, that actually had some of these on their website. Yeah, I don't believe that. I do not believe that. I don't know if the camera will pick that up or not. Actually, let me take the camera out of the tripod, and I'll try to come around to this side. You see the bubbles right in the center. It looks like this side here is a little bit higher. So what you do there, then you just come over here and turn this counterclockwise, and that will draw it up. Because basically what I'm doing by going counterclockwise, I'm lowering these two corners. Okay, where's it at? There it is. So see, it looks like I still got to lower it a little bit more. But this way you can get your you know what? I'm doing that wrong. So I'm lowering this side, which is pushing this. This side is uphill already. So this side here is uphill. And I'm lowering this down, so that all that's doing is making this even uphill more. So I have to go clockwise. Do 4 partial turns, which is what, about a quarter turn. So it's about 1 full turn. It looks like I need to bring it over towards this right hand corner towards me a little bit more. Bring that side up. Whatever side you bring up, that's the direction the bubble is going to go. So that would be the thing to remember. So you can see it's closer to this line up this way than it is the other way. So clockwise about a half a turn. And this one probably go 3/4 of a turn. Yeah, we'll go a little more. You can see that bubble in there now. It looks a little bit high to the right side. So I can actually turn that counterclockwise just a hair on that one leg. Looks like we're about dead center. So that's how that works. Then you just move this away. But I saw one where they had it, probably used a router to make a little cavity down in there, and that just sat right down in it. But this works just as good. Like I say, keep it away from this edge. If you get a little, the straighter the board, the better. So probably looking at a piece of plywood or particle board that hasn't been out in the weather like this one has. And then get 6 levels, which is more than you need. You may be able to find these singly, but I need to make something up like this too for when I do my ingot molds and stuff. That way when I pour the ingots, I can put a piece of metal over the top so that the hot metal doesn't come in contact with the wood. But that's it for that. So I'm not sure how to do a thumbnail picture for this, but I'll just call it making a level surface for your molds or something. And if anybody wants to kind of stick around, I can do a little. I want to check out one of these and see how they perform, and you can kind of get an idea about sand casting if you want to. That's up to you. But I thought this little project here might come in handy for a lot of people, because sometimes finding a level surface can be hard, especially if you live in an apartment or older building or something like that, older house. A lot of times things are out of level. So it's a pretty simple little project, didn't take too long at all. Just some basic hand tools. So I'm going to set this aside. I'm going to put the camera back in the tripod. For those of you that want to stick around and watch. Or you can go to my other channel too and look under the playlist for melting metal. My other channel is called Okie Scrapper, because I'm in Oklahoma. So grab one of my flasks, a homemade flask. Turn the camera where I can see. I color coded these so I know which end goes in where. So you take your top off, which is called your cope, and I think the bottom's called a drag, and then you flip it over upside down. See, and then for doing this, I kind of want to offset it a little bit. That way, when I make my hole to pour the metal in, it'll be off to the side and can run in. So this is going to be the most challenging because this is the thickest one. You take some baby powder. I've heard some people even using just regular flour. This keeps the petrol bond from sticking to the wood surface, and then I just take a brush and kind of go over, get a lot of the excess off, because I don't really want it built up down inside where the detail is either. I mainly just kind of check into to see if everything's going to work right, so when I pull it out, it doesn't grab any sand and make it fall in or anything else. Because if there's something that kind of comes over and there's a hollow spot, the sand can fill in the hollow spot, you know, say above it, and then when you bring it up, it's going to knock that sand out of there. So I had to do it, take my Dremel tool and find diamond blades and do a little bit of cutting on those. On these it's very obvious to see where I did the cutting on some of the scales. It seemed like it had some pockets up underneath the scales that could be a problem waiting to happen with this. And a lot of times once I get that in there, I don't have a lot of room around the edges, so, and it's easy to bump this and make everything move. So if it's, a lot of that stuff's just sticking to that. So I like to kind of tap it down around it where some of this is packed in. That way if you move the flask at all, then it's not gonna, you know, the ingot will stay basically aligned in the same place. I'm not a professional at this at all. Trying to fill in some of them spots. I probably need to powder the end of that, way it won't stick. Sometimes you can just pack it down good and tight. Okay, if you're wearing earbuds, you might want to pull them out or turn the volume down, because I'm fixing to beat on this with a rubber mallet. So go ahead and get your earbuds out, volume turned down. So now if I was going to go all the way, make the whole mold up, then I would put this on, and I may put a piece of pipe in over here, and then pack it in with dirt, or I could pack it in with dirt and take this off, then make my hole and prepare it. Then after everything's said and done in there, then you got to pull this out. So a little hammer might work better. To kind of help maybe loosen it up a little bit. But one trick I've learned is, it looked like I pushed it down in there more. I'll glue a nail there. And then I try to get more, kind of go around that little blob with some more to get more surface area. What would really be good is to drill a little hole, drill and tap a little hole, 2 little holes, where I could run screws in there. And then when I actually put this in here, put a piece of tape over the back, and then once I get to this part, pull the tape off, run the screws in, because then I could actually tap on the side of the screws. So now we're going to try to just wiggle it, and that one came unhooked. Glue might not be cooled off yet. It looked like it was coming up though. Get some glue on top of the nail head. Blow on it a little bit. Now we'll see if we can. Yeah. Well. I've got little dragon heads and stuff like that I've got on eBay already. Like this little dragon head, and this one made out of copper. I think I've even got one of this one here made out of brass. This little motor head thing, skull. And they're so shallow, they come out pretty easy. A lot of times they'll just I flip the thing over and they just fall right out. But this one here has got the deepest sides, so it's going to be a little challenge. I'm kind of rocking it back and forth. Okay. Now, unfortunately, the sand stayed in the eye, and then I got to. Came out pretty clean for the most part. Unfortunately, that sand stayed in the eye though, so that's not going to look too good. So I may need to put more baby powder in that area. There's some loose stuff in there. Guess I'll get the camera out of the tripod. Bring you guys over here. So I'll play around with it. The mold cost me about $13 and then $10 shipping, so I got about $23 wrapped up into that. So it'll be nice if I can get some of these to work. You can see all that dirt, all that sand coming out with that eye. That's kind of a shame. I might be able to take the Dremel and taper that eye just a little bit. I mean, it really looks good the way it is, but I might be able to give it a little more taper so it's not going to hold the sand as good. But you can see we're doing pretty good. There's really, I think there's, yeah, one spot right down in here where the sand kind of came loose, and maybe right there. Let's see. Yeah, that would be that corner of the mold there. Yeah, not too bad. I might go ahead and play with one of these others that aren't near as deep. Yeah, I was going to just do this one here, but you know, it's so thin. I thought, would that really make that doesn't really I don't know if that would make a very good ingot or not. So then I went with 4 ounces of resin and did this one. And that one's 6 ounces of resin, and it almost filled the mold. And those copper ingots go for just a regular copper ingot about $10–12. So I was thinking, well, even something like this would be interesting. But yeah, I don't know how that eye would look right now without that on there. It still leaves a little impression, you can see. So, and there's so much detail, even where it's kind of ripped out right there. Normal person may not realize it. You know, plus I could probably touch it up a little bit once I got it out. You know, once I had the ingot, I could get in there and touch it up a hair. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and call it a video. Hope you guys enjoyed. My wife wants me to make this, I think I've got it out here. Might be here, might be in the 5th wheel. Yeah, it's in the 5th wheel. Little heart mold. Oreo, I don't need your help. So, the heart mold, and I've got some alcohol ink coming in so I can give the rose some color. So, I'll probably be doing that one shortly. So, thanks for watching, everybody, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.